Morning, peeps. I'm back. And you're probably sick to death this week, aren't you, of YouTube videos talking about Gabrielle. Well, rest assured, peeps, I will not be one of those people bringing in Gabrielle this week. I wasn't going to anyway. The news of the injury or potential injury, I suspect he's fine. Very strongly suspect he's fine. However, there is a possibility still that he's rested, and Arteta uses it as an excuse to have him taken out of international duty. I saw somewhere actually the Brazil team sheet. So I know João Pedro's been excused duty for international week. So João Pedro, a lot of people getting rid of him this week. I think actually he is one of the most sold players, isn't he? He's actually predicted to drop in price tonight for my team. But he's no longer playing for Brazil in the international break. So it means that when he comes back, he's also banned from the next Champions League fixture, which is very good news for his league status. However, he is carrying a slight knock, which I think Maresca probably asked the Brazilians to keep him out of international duty. I think Brazil only have a couple of friendlies anyway. The only Chelsea player going is Esteval. So Wirtz could be dropping tonight, which is very significant for me because I will be making that transfer today. It's a day earlier than I'd like. I'd like to make a transfer a bit closer to the deadline. However, nothing happened to Saka. I'm bringing Saka in. I've decided that's my transfer this week. It was always the plan, which is why I bought Ndiaye in last week rather than Semenyo. A lot of people asking me why I didn't get Semenyo. And the reason is, if I had got Semenyo, I wouldn't have been able to afford to bring in Saka. I'm not overly concerned about the EO of Semenyo. Maybe I should be, but I like to play my own game. And I see Saka as quite a... I see Saka as quite a sort of differential at this stage. I was very surprised actually with the game week 6 wildcarders, how they nearly all went double Arsenal defence and Gyökeres and completely locked themselves out of a Arsenal midfielder. You've got Eze, Saka, even Rice, who could all be really great options. And I think they all went with Raya as their third Arsenal choice. Okay, yeah, he's going to get your clean sheets and blah, blah, blah and all that, but he's not going to get many save points or bonus points probably. And it seems like a big price to pay to block yourself out of an Arsenal midfield spot. It really does. And so I was quite surprised with that because, okay, Ray is good and he could well end up being the highest point scoring goalkeeper of the season, but you are paying money for that, aren't you? You're paying the extra. Whereas someone like Pope at 5 million probably won't end up too far off Rare by the end of the season, and it's $500,000 less, and you're not hamstringing your side by ruling yourself out of Arsenal midfielders. So I'm thinking Saka is quite an interesting differential. In fact, in terms of projected points, he's actually projected to get more than Haaland this week. So I wouldn't captain him. But in terms of possible points this week, he's right up there with Fernandes and Haaland. I don't know about Gyökeres. Not so keen on him, but we'll see how they go together. Saka played about 25 minutes midweek, came on, scored a goal. So you'd think he's going to start this week. Eze was benched as well, and Rice. So you'd expect those three to all be playing this week. And like I said, I do see Saka is quite an interesting differential with quite a bit of upside. And I was so pleased to see everybody lock themselves out of him, which I thought was absolutely crazy. So, bench, let's have a look. In terms of your teams, your defences probably aren't this dissimilar. I'm going with Lacroix over Anderson this week. I know Palace have just finished their European game. It looks like everybody's come through unscathed, but they were over in Serbia, Belgrade. It's not an easy place to go to, but they're not playing until Sunday, so hopefully they should be okay. I see Matata came off at half time. Well, Nketiah, and I think Nketiah might have scored a goal as well. Well, no, I think he did. But the main defence all played, and they all played to 90 minutes pretty much. Goalkeepers are interesting. Dubravka and Sanchez, not much between them. Sanchez does have slightly a better chance this week of keeping a clean sheet. Some people are benching Virgil van Dijk. And in fact, looking at Solio actually wanted me to play Rodon ahead of Virgil van Dijk, but I don't listen to Solio. You know, some people might tell you I do, Peaks, but I use Solio to put in my own information. You know, for example, I went in there today and I played around with Gordon's stats. I changed his minutes to 75 minutes, and I gave him a real high share of the penalties. And even then, he still didn't come out as being better than the likes of Semenyo. So I think a lot of people this week rushing to get Gordon in because he scored 2 penalties. I think it's a bit hype, bit overhyped. You know, we all like to get people that have just scored. I mean, look at how everyone's getting Gabriel. Would they have been rushing in quite the same way if he hadn't scored a 94th minute penalty? I mean, corner, header. Would they have been rushing to get him in so much? I don't know if they would. You know, if the ref had blown his whistle a minute earlier, then it would have been a disappointing outcome for him, wouldn't it? He's lucky he didn't get sent off. Right, so this is the team this week. Pretty happy with it. Only one free transfer. And like I said, I am going to go and do Saka in for Wirtz. Let's go and have a look at transfers in, shall we, for the week? Transfers in round. So there again, Raya, Roofs, Pope, Donnarumma. All the ones that got points last week, probably. Senesi's still being bought in absolute droves. Absolute droves of people buying Senesi. I paid 4.5 for him, and he was one of the reasons I wildcarded in game week 4. And he's now 4.9, so he's going to be 5 million soon. So he's the most bought-in defender this week. I think Pickle was watching FPL Pickle's video yesterday. She does it's quite sort of generic, but she's got a fantastic history. You know, I think she's finished in the top 5k the last couple of seasons. So I was watching that yesterday, and she bought in Senesi, I think, this week rather than bringing in Gabriel. And who have we got? Still Semenyo, still being bought in more than anybody else this week. Saka only 5th spot, 191,000 managers, which isn't a huge amount. And I think transfers generally this week are kind of lower, aren't they, than normal? There hasn't been many price changes, not many rises. It's kind of a steady as you go sort of a week, isn't it, this one? People just looking in to bring in 1 or 2 Arsenal assets at the exclusion of all others, really. So a lot of people bought in Haaland, who really should have been in last week, shouldn't he? Gyökeres, Voltemada, Thiago. Very little striker options, really, aren't there? I mean, people are taking out João Pedro. I guess they're going up to Gyökeres, or maybe getting the Newcastle striker in. But really, I think it's premature to take out João Pedro. I mean, he's always going to get a lot of transfers because he's owned by all the casuals. So they're a bit more fickle. So we can see lots of movement in terms of his ownership. I think once the floodgates open, they're really open with João Pedro. But I think I paid an odd number for him, so if this next drop doesn't actually cost me in terms of selling points. Transfers out this week. Sanchez sells back. I've already lost money on Sanchez. Chalobah, Cucurella, Livramento, Virgil van Dijk's been sold off already. Possibly for Gabriel, who could well get a bench this week. We just don't know, do we? Salah taken out. I think people have finally clicked on Salah. I saw on Reddit actually that this is the worst start he's ever made in the Premier League after 6 matches. He's never had this fewer amount of points. I think it's 36 points. Never. So you factor in the change in the team structure, the loss of Trent and his age and everything else, and you can see that it's kind of not a coincidence, I think. Not a coincidence. I think we can kind of say now that it's very unlikely we get the old Salah back for any extended length of time. You know, we might get a week where he scores a couple of goals and everyone will think he's back, but I'm not sure he is. You know, and I took him out last season. Remember that Richard III plan, peeps? When I took him out in game week 29 when everyone had him and got Haaland in. Haaland went and got injured, unfortunately, so then everyone had Salah. But I got rid of Salah and I could see the writing on the wall. I saw it then. You know, once Trent stopped becoming an option, it really impacted Salah really badly, and that was just a part of it. You know, it's changed a lot. He hasn't been the old Salah since the first half of last season. So I've got zero intention of bringing him back anytime soon. The only time he could possibly come back would be game week 13. Even then, I think I'll be looking at other Liverpool assets instead, because he goes away to AFCON a few weeks later. So it's not going to be worth it, I think. Not going to be worth it. Palmer's still being sold. We could do some more price drops from Palmer, because I will want him back at some stage. And the easier he is to switch back from Saka or Fernandes, the better. I mean, it's looking like it could be Fernandes, isn't it? I mean, if Fernandes blanks against Sunderland and we find out he's not on penalties, then a fit and healthy Palmer could be extremely useful to fill a gap. And I could downgrade João Pedro or maybe somebody else and get Palmer back in. Kudos being sold already. Grealish was heavily bought a few weeks ago, but he's done nothing since, has he? He was the highest bought player 2 or 3 weeks ago. Hasn't got any attacking returns since, which just shows that often the most bought in player each week proceeds to blank, and that's because people tend to use last week's points as a way of selecting their players, and it's not generally the best way to go about things. So anyway, Wirtz is coming out and Saka's going in. Where is he? Let's find him, peeps. Let's find him. Let's have a look at creativity while we're here. So this is a creativity index where Stack was actually at the top a few weeks ago. He's still fairly near the top. But when I bought him in, people said I bought him in because it was a review pick. Well, that was absolute nonsense. I've done a lot of research on Stack, and then I went and saw that he was actually second in terms of creativity behind Fernandes. This is after game week 3. He's dropped slightly, but he's still quite high on the list here, isn't he? Still quite high. Higher than the likes of Wirtz and Paquetá. Salah even. You know, he's more creative than Salah this season. Stack. So that kind of says it all in regards to Salah, really, doesn't it? I don't know if you ever use these things, the ITC index or whatever it's called, but I find the influence ones normally pretty good. Like this is influence, and you've got Senesi at the top, Virgil van Dijk. It's picking out good defenders if you order it by influence. Anthony, Semenyo, Caicedo, Fernandez, Enzo. Thiago's right up there too in the strikers. So, let me get round to putting in Saka and see what it looks like. Arsenal, that's the easiest way to do it, isn't it? All right, let's get him in. Let's get him in. There he is. So I get Saka in and I've got 0.2 left in the bank. Like I said, I'm not making the transfer now. I'm going to wait another 5 hours just in case. You never know what you might hear. So news travels fast. You know, if he's sick or whatever, or something happens to him, then I save myself some pain. I've been watching all these like YouTube channels to see like the best ones like Dallimore and those sort of ones. The kind of ones that are actually really great players, just to try and get an insight into how their minds work. And a lot of them don't care at all about team value. We just don't care one slightest bit, or they probably do care, but they don't actually factor it into their decisions. You know, they'll wait. They wait regardless. Whereas me, I'm not waiting one more day and putting up with another Wirtz price drop, because I think the likelihood of any information from Arteta is next to zero. I mean, even if something does happen with Saka, or he's not going to play, we're not going to find out from Arteta, are we, at the press conference? So I will be making that move today. But it's interesting because, like Fabio Borges, like I've kind of always paid attention to his team, and he's someone who's never, ever really worried about team value. You know, quite a lot of years his team value will be really, really low. Yet for a long time he was like the number one in the world, and then I think Dallimore took over, and he's another one who doesn't worry about team value. So I'm kind of coming round to the idea a little bit of not worrying as much about team value as I used to. And I've made very few early transfers actually this season. Even last week, all the people that urge patience and don't make early transfers all went early on Haaland, didn't they? And I didn't. I waited on the Haaland move. As it turned out, I needn't have waited. But I felt that was really important last week to actually get the decision right. It was quite a pivot. Oh, Jesus, peeps. Let's go and have a game of chess. Where's the chess? Let's have a game of 1 minute chess, shall we? If you don't like watching me play a 1 minute chess game, because it's only going to take a minute, peeps, then don't watch it. Watch this. Watch the speed. He saw it. Sometimes you make a bad move just to hope they don't notice. Like I've just done. Let's block it up. Block it up, peeps. Jesus, this is a mess. It's all going to come down to the clock. I noticed that one. What should I do? I'll get a knight on that square. Okie dokie. He's going to start pushing that pawn. Shit, what am I going to do? Going to get my king. Got to get my queen over. Here it comes. Let's go for a king walk. You can't attack my king if it's not there, peeps. Chop. Now what's he going to do? Oh shit, I've made a mistake. His rooks are getting in. Now he's in trouble. I've got him. I've got him. Queens are off. He's got no attack now. Where am I going to put that knight? How much time's he got, peeps? Got him. What a performance. What a performance by the boys. Right, so let's get back to FPL. And that's about it. You know, you've seen a game of chess. Someone asked me to do a video about the similarities between chess and FPL. Well, there's a lot of strategic similarities like planning and everything else, but I might do a video on that during the international break. Anyway, Pete's transfer decided. Next week looks like a good week to save. Fernandez away at Liverpool, but I'm actually might even bench him and play Rodon. A lot of people are using their bench boost next week. So I'm thinking I'm going to play my Leeds players. You know, if people are playing them on their bench boost, then I can play them and get benefit from them as well. Because Stack away at Burnley is probably better than Fernandez away at Liverpool and then Die away at Man City next week. So you can see my bench is rubbish. But I bought in Stack and in Die because I knew they rotated well together. So I might even play Dubravka as well. So who knows? Anyway, Pix, I'll talk to you all later. So cheers for now. Have a great weekend and everything else. And I'll see you back on the late night lock-in on Saturday night. So like and subscribe and cheers, people.